Hello, happy Thursday out there to people. Give you a second so that you get your notification and you know that I'm here waiting for you. Hi Laura. Hey, hi Megan. Lovely to see all of your faces. Feel like I need to de-escalate a little. We've had a very busy, very intensive morning. Can't tell all of you about it quite yet, but soon, very soon, I can tell you about some of it. But it has meant that we're all kind of buzzing and quite excited around here at the moment, which is good. You wouldn't want to be like this all the time, but every now and again to have a little bit of buzz is a lot of fun. You can see I'm wrapped up in my Soren today because it is cold here again. It's like somebody decided that it was returning to winter and we're back down to single figure temperatures, down to close to freezing at night. I think it's going to get down to freezing tonight. I don't like it. It was nice and warm. And so one of the things that is particularly hard right now is the fact that our weather has gotten colder, but I need to plan the photo shoot for our spring, well, for our spring seasons and also for the Campo Nights shawl, because the shawl is finished, but we haven't done the photo shoot yet. I was waiting for warmer, brighter weather, and the plan was this weekend, and now it's really cold. So if I look a little cold in the photographs, you will know why. Hi Debbie, it's gloomy in Western New York. Yeah, it is indeed a good day for knitting. I find actually, overcast days are fine. I don't do so well actually in cold weather. I don't know if anyone else suffers from this, but when the weather is cold and if I am not in a room that's warm enough, my fingers get very stiff and I actually have to warm myself up before I can knit because it impacts my knitting speed and my comfort of moving my fingers. So I suffer very much from colder weather in terms of hand mobility. Now we do keep our house fairly cold. Most of the time it's because I have so many animals lying down with me that the rest of the house can afford to be cool rather, because I've got like layers and layers of warmth on top of me. Now, some of you may have noticed that on the 1st, which was last night, I'm losing track of my days. Last night, we announced our spring seasons has just launched. If you are a member, you'll have already rolled over into the next season, or you should be coming up to it soon. If you haven't joined before, or if you join just on particular seasons, whether it's some yarns appeal to you more, or there's some seasons you know you're going to knit a little bit more, I'd like to tell you a little bit about this particular season. So I've got the 3 colours here with me. This year, or this spring season, we've got Life in the Long Grass Merino singles, and there's 3 colours. When you get the club, you'll get 2 skeins of your colour pick. This one is seasonal. And I think this has proved quite popular. You can see it looks very, very similar to the bulb that we pictured it with. You can see there's a little bit of darker green. You've got some pinks and purples coming up. So this feels like the spring bulbs coming out. Here's our brights. I think you probably know what this one is. The brights is full on daffodil yellow, and it really is it makes a fantastic daffodil color. So if you need a nice pick-me-up for the spring, then the brights is the one for you. If you are a little bit more subtle and you like those smooth shades, this here, little minty green with, it's just a really delicate shade of green with small speckles. This is the subtle color. So there'll be accessory patterns, 2 of them, that will use 2 skeins of the yarn. And there's no socks this year. I've had a couple of questions with a few people asking me about whether there was going to be any socks. No, there will not be socks this year. This is not a particularly good yarn for socks because while it's a fingering weight, it's a single ply merino, but the benefit of that is the way it is spun, you can see it, or the way it's twisted, I should say, it's got a nice shine to it. So when you knit with it, it just looks really, really nice. It's a super wash, which actually means that even though it's a single ply, it's got a little bit more durability to it. Pleasure to knit with is all I can say. I'm finishing off the second of the patterns and I'm loving it. I really enjoyed working with it. I've done one of the samples in 2 different colors to kind of see what they knit up like, and I kind of like them all, to be honest with you. So that's the first thing you'll get, and then you're going to get some videos. There's going to be, in this particular club, there's going to be a little bit of lace. Not a lot, just a small little bit different. It's not traditional lace is the best way to put it, is the way I feel about it. So if you know lace and you just want to use a little bit of lace in an interesting pattern, then it's a good one for you. If you haven't done much lace knitting, hopefully there'll be enough little tips along the way that it'll help you to really get into it as you're working through it. So lace is the way to go with this one if you want to do a small little bit of lace. In terms of other things that are coming up with it, there's going to be obviously the community aspect of it, and on top of that we're going to have a pattern. I keep saying a pattern, a recipe from the Recipe Circle, where they're going to, it's going to be, I think it's going to be savoury this time around, but it will be very special. The first 2 ones they've done for us were really nice. We had these little pastries in the autumn that were gorgeous. They were sweet potato with some really nice herbs and cheeses, and then the last one that came out in the winter, they did a shortbread that was dipped in chocolate that was just delicious, really, really good. Oh, Laura's just jumped in. She said that it's going to be a sweet one this time round. We have not seen the recipe yet, so it is a surprise to us as well. So we'll make sure to test it out and let you know what it's like when it gets here. But it's a nice little extra, actually. We've picked our seasonal tea, or we've almost picked it. We've got the range downstairs. We must go test it this weekend and find the perfect tea for you. So that's kind of, I think that's a little bit of an overview of it. There's of course going to be a Zoom Live as well. It's only going to be open until the 14th of March, and then it will close. Ships at the beginning of April, and the patterns will come out, I believe it's around the 20th of April. The only variation on that is if there was a delay with something coming in which case we just delay the patterns to make sure that you have the yarn and as many people as possible have the package in their hands before it goes live. The fibre on the shelf behind me looks like a cloud. It's true, isn't it? I've got a floating cloud of Galway fleece sitting over my shoulder. Always. Kathy, you were saying the hand pies were a hit in your family. Oh, that's good. We did them at home as well, and I loved it. And actually, the filling from that, there was so much of it that I wrapped the pastry, but there was quite a good bit with it. And the filling by itself actually made a really nice, just a dish on its own. So even if you just did the middle part without the pastry, it by itself actually made a nice side dish, just a nice way of even flavouring sweet potato. So I've been showing a little bit. If you're on my Facebook group, I had just posted up a small sneak peek of what I was working on for my the upcoming spring cardigan knit along. I'm really liking how it's coming out. It's top-down cardigan and it's in newest sport, and I'm using Hatter's Teal Party. And I've just reached the point where I've divided the arms from the body, tried it on, and it fits really nicely. The top part, the pattern across the yoke is looking really well. So I am really eager to keep moving and get it finished. That is the point in a cardigan where I get really excited, or I lose the will to finish it. When I divide the sleeves, have knit maybe an extra inch or so that there's a little bit of substance to the cardigan. And then when I try it on, if it fits well, I just want it off the needles so that I can wear it, because I know I'm going to enjoy wearing it because the fit is good, the pattern is working out well, and it's in fact what really pushes me to finish a garment when I reach that point, is to just kind of, because I get so excited about it. Will it be steeked? It will not be steeked. The cardigan's going to be knit flat back and forth. It doesn't have colour work, so there wouldn't be any steeking. I think I'm going to need to get some colour work on my needles for the autumn. But right now I'm just focused on the spring, get the spring one finished and we'll get moving. Liz, it looks lovely. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. You couldn't see too much, just a little hint. There's again a small bit of lace. I like in my spring cardigans because they tend to be transitional wear and rolling into the summer. I really like to have something a little lighter, something with lace, a lighter yarn, again a sports weight yarn, so that you can wear it on a cooler evening in the summer as well as in the spring, because you don't want the cables are not really going to be something you're going to wear at that time of year, but lace works really well. You like the sweater I'm wearing. It is a very cozy sweater. It's just ideal for the weather we have now. This is Sorn, S-O-R-N, and it's become kind of this winter's go-to cardigan. It's one where it's fairly straightforward, but I've actually rolled quite a few techniques into it to really up your finishing game. I do that sometimes with cardigans, particularly or garments, I suppose, if the rest of it is fairly simple. So in this case, it's top down. There's a simple raglan, and you can see on the back there's ribbing in the middle and then reverse stockinette stitch on this side. But I've kind of played a little bit with the stitch pattern. So you have garter here, reverse stockinette stitch here, and ribbing on the back, and then the collar is finished afterwards. But one of the things that took me 3 goes to do was the collar, because it's picked up afterwards and knit up here. And the reason I picked it up afterwards is, you see the way there's a curve down here? It means that you can actually shape the neck much, much better if you do it afterwards. But what that means when you're doing an integrated I-cord is it can very easily end up not curling the right way. So you have to be very careful that you pick all of the I-cord stitches up all the way around from the right side as you're working it up. And I had to reverse one of the I-cords because I started off, first of all, picked it up, didn't pick it up the right way. So it got undone, went back and redid it. And this time it was picked up correctly, but I left the I-cord as I had done it working down, but it curled the other way and it looked really odd here. So third time was almost a charm, and I did it the right way, but I picked the stitches up from the wrong side. I did eventually get it right, and I'm wearing the finished piece, but it took far longer than it should because I really wanted to get just that small little detail right. But just give you an idea of, sometimes there is multiple decisions that you make along the way, particularly on something that is very simple like this. It has to have really tidy details because it'll stand out. There's no other stitch patterns going on, so all you're going to see is that I-cord there. So if it's turned the wrong way or if it jogs, you will notice it. So putting all of that into the video is really important in order to be able to actually make it as seamless as possible when you've got the finished piece. But yeah, so this is why I like this one, is that it's all about the details in it. Something else that happened today is some of you may be on doing our Campo Nights knit along. Clue 2 came out this morning, so if you haven't looked at your inbox yet, go jump in. If you want some help, make sure you hop into Knit Hub, where there's chat getting started already on reading the charts and all of that good stuff. I'm going to give a few little hints and tips along the way here. I'm not going to show the shawl, obviously, because I'm not going to spoil the mystery. I will talk a small bit about the stitch pattern. So the first thing is that the stitch pattern is called the dragon wing stitch pattern, and it really looks like that. When you finished it, it has got like a little scaly quality feel to it. It's a slip stitch pattern, which I am really fond of. Slip stitch, when you look at it in the chart, one of the things that will sometimes catch people is the rows look like they've got 2 colors happening at the same time. But the reason for that is there's slip stitches. And if you've got a row of one color and then you change the color on the next row, the stitches you've slipped, you're pulling up the old color. So in the chart, it looked like there's two colors worked, but that second color is only been because you're slipping the stitch. So if you've got a slip stitch color and it shows a different color on it, it just means that you're pulling that row up. This is not obviously the shawl, but I thought this was a good example of slip stitches. This is Arch Lane from Knitting with Rainbows, and you're using a slip stitch pattern to go from one color into another. It's a really deep cowl, but it does show it very clearly here. So what you've got is there's only one color worked at a time in these rows, but this color here, you've worked the yellow row and then you slip it, which means that when you're slipping it, it passes in front of these other colors here. So if you're doing that in a chart form, it's going to show two colors, but you're only knitting the one color, and that's why. The other thing you will see is we started first of all, and it's stockinette stitch in the first clue with garter stripes. This one we're going to be alternating between some slip stitch patterns, a little bit of plain stockinette stitch with a few stripes, and then another dragon wings stitch pattern. In the chart at the beginning, it doesn't show the edge stitches. It's just showing you the actual stitch pattern. So keep that in mind. And also, because the same chart is used for a couple of different places, it means that the colors in the chart are going to be changing depending on which repeat you have. So we've got the colors we're using are C1, C2, and C3. But in the chart, I talk about yarn A and yarn B. But on each section, it will say yarn A is equal to C1, yarn B is equal to C3. And that means when I come down to the next repeat, I can say for the chart, yarn A is C3 and yarn B is C2. So the same chart will do for two different color combinations. All the stitches are the same, it just means that you're using different yarns in each place. So when you put patterns together like that, that's why you will have a stitch pattern kept out separate in the technique section, simply because it allows you to use the same thing in a different place but just with different colors. There's the edge charts where you've got little rolled I-cord edges. They are not written into the chart, but they're written into the stitch pattern direction. So because you're working through different color stripes, so you'll have some with color 1, some with color 2, or color A and color B, you're going to follow those for the rows and patterns. So if the chart is color A on the first row, you're going to knit the whole row with that color. You never ever strand color works. It's always taking the actual stitch color, or the row color that you're going to work will come from the chart. And then your I-cord edging, you'll be given directions within the pattern. So you're kind of combining the two in together. Sounds more complicated than it is. As soon as you have done one or two rows, it'll really start coming together. And again, if you're having a hard time picturing it and you just want to see what it looks like, just jump straight into Teachable, and you've got all the videos there where I'm working my way through it. You may not need that, and you may want to keep it a surprise. So in which case, you don't need to go to the Teachable videos, but they are there if you're finding yourself getting tied in knots or getting a little bit confused as to how it all fits together. Just go on and take a look at the video, and it becomes a lot more explicit when you can see it all kind of laid out before you, is the best way to answer it. So hopefully as you start getting into it, it should start making more sense. I suspect that usually the first day or two after a new clue has come out, particularly when this is the first one with the pattern work, there's probably going to be a lot of questions coming through, and I will be jumping in and out of KnitHub all day for the next couple of days. So I won't get there immediately, but within a couple of hours, I get in to answer most questions. So if something does come up or you're getting stuck, just pop it up there. And if you've got any other questions here, you can just add them into the lives as we're going through it here. There will be, Liz, you have to have a look, as you can't knit on it for a few days. You have to have a look. So do you like the way it looks, Liz? That's the question, seeing as you've taken a sneak peek. But I will be back here again next Thursday. If we'll have Clue 3 is coming out next week, and within a few weeks after that, I'll be able to share the finished shawl with you, which should be fun. Wish me luck with our weather this weekend now that I can actually get some nice photos together for it. Laura's been putting a little bit of planning into styling it, which Liz, you love it. Oh good. I was really happy with it. It's not a complex stitch pattern to work, but it has more impact than you think it's going to have. And I do think that once you've got a nice little bit of contrast with those colors, they just look so good together. yeah, I was very happy with this shawl. So I hope you're all enjoying it. Have fun knitting it during the week, and I will see you next week for our final stitch pattern, or final clue, I should say. And if anything else pops up, just shoot me out a question, or if you've got questions for next week, just put them on in here. Thanks for joining me. Bye.